Hey everybody, it's David Duford here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. It is Labor Day 2019, and we are back again with another informative and hopefully helpful live stream. This is somewhat ad hoc, was planned and scheduled, but I went ahead and wanted to make sure my YouTube audience got a little bit of this as well. So, the purpose of today's program is to really give you guys an overview of how our new Medicare Advantage sales and marketing program works. Whether you're already selling Medicare or if you've considered selling Medicare, specifically Medicare Advantage, and you don't know quite where to start, what the process is, or what it actually all looks like. So I'm actually joined today via conference call with Luis Moreno out of Texas. Luis, can you hear me?
I got you. I'm here, David.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on. So, what we're going to do today is really just a basic intro overview of what it is that we're doing. And the nice thing is you've got two ways that you can be a part of this. You can watch me live on YouTube, which is here right now. You can jump in and ask away any questions that you have. Or if you are on a conference, on our conference call line, you can press 5-star, and that will raise your hand at any point you have any kind of questions you would like to ask myself or Luis. So really, I think the best way, Luis, we get started, if you could kind of just introduce yourself and give us an overview on your career in insurance and career selling Medicare Advantage.
Sure, perfect. I'd love to. So, number one, I've been an agent since 2001. I started as a captive agent with Mutual of Omaha, and then I decided to open up a property and casualty agency, which I still have right now. And in 2004, I made the decision to jump 100% into Medicare. I've got my staff that handles my property and casualty business, but I strictly focused on Medicare and have been heavily involved in sales, built up a great agency doing that, and now have decided to take the next step, which is helping and mentoring agents get into this business. I tell agents that right now, of all the time in history that the time to get into the business is right now, and we keep putting out different statistics. And it's hard to get a factual number on this, but anywhere between 10,000 to 15,000 seniors a day turning 65. It is a target-rich environment, and there's no better time to get into this business.
Yeah, can you expand on that? Because, Medicare Advantage has been around, I think, 13, 14 years or so. It was kind of wild the first half of that. And a lot of people got out of the business because compliance things changed. Why do you think now at this point, well into the Medicare Advantage scheme of things, is now the opportune time to jump in and get involved?
Well, I can't talk too much about how the way it was. It was a little bit different compared to it is now. Compliance is huge, but it's nothing to be scared of. I just finished a conference that we held in Houston, and we spent about an hour on two on compliance, and it's really nothing to fear if you're doing it the right way. As far as Medicare Advantage itself, I tell people, and I try to either dumb it down or break it down into a simple way to understand it. When somebody turns 65, they only have two ways that they can go. They can go left or right. And whether they go left, it's not a wrong choice, or they go right, it's not a wrong choice. And so it's one way or the other. Option one, option two. I like to use the analogy of buying a car or buying a truck. I'm from Texas, David. Over here, everybody's got trucks. Trucks may be the best decision here. Now, if you're in New York, a truck may not be the best option. So it really depends on the scenario. There is no cookie cutter approach to it, but it's either offering a senior option one or option two. Now, I tell agents that are thinking about getting into this business and making the jump into it, if they have ever sat down with a senior who's turning 65 and asked and look at the amount of mail that they get 6 months prior to turning 65, I mean, they can pile it up and it can be a foot high. The amount of calls that they get, the call list that they get put on. Every entity out there can get a T65 list, and and they can get solicited for Medicare supplements. The amount of calls that these seniors are getting, it is extremely overwhelming for them to not only, first of all, decide, should I go left or right? Should I buy a car or truck? That right there in itself is a huge decision. But once they make the decision to go one way or the other, then it's actually studying the plans that apply to each decision and doing a little homework.
So what you're saying is that an agent is still, in some sense, a welcome guest, not a pest in the home. That's what you're saying.
Oh my God, huge. I mean, what you're doing for these guys is incredible. Now, I look at it from a senior's point of view. Most of these seniors have worked and have either worked for a company and was told, here is your health plan, sign up. They weren't given options. They just were told, here you go. They've never had to make a decision about the carrier or the plan types. They may decide on deductibles and they've got some options, but they make it very simple for these employees. A lot of seniors never had insurance. And now all of a sudden they're turning 65, they're given Medicare, and now they've got to decide option one, option two. And then they've got to look at hundreds of Medicare companies in both options, each with different plans, HMOs, PPOs, network issues, prescription issues. It's overwhelming for these seniors. And the work that we have to do to help them, I'm making it sound like it's a big thing. It is a huge thing for them. It is not a huge thing for us agents.
Right. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, you see people that have the Medicare and You handbooks, and they piece through everything. And as we teach in sales, the more options generally, the more confusion, and the less people take action or just off-put it until a later date because they just don't know what to do.
Well, that, or they're afraid to enroll in the wrong plan,
right?
And they just decide not to do anything. You know, they get paralyzed. And I've run into them in my book of business. I'm like, well, why didn't you enroll? Well, I didn't know which plan to get into, and I was afraid to get into the wrong plan. So we are very, very welcome. I've been, the past year, I've been talking to a lot of final expense agents, and what I have been gathering is that when you go in there and you start talking about final expense compared to the conversation about Medicare, these seniors want to talk about their health care.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's there. They want help. They want to know if they're in the best plan, and of course, we always want to shop and see if we can get them something better, because they don't know if they enrolled in the right plan. And we're brokers with our organization. We're brokers. We're going to have every carrier out there, and so I just think it's a time where there is no better time to get into the business.
So you mentioned final expense in Medicare as kind of possibly a hand in glove type of scenario. Can you describe, and this is one of our focuses, but I'd like you to kind of expand on this, why final expense agents should really seriously consider looking into the Medicare Advantage space on maybe not immediately, but at some point in their career to start selling in addition to final expense. What are the advantages that those agents will see?
Well, let's look at it from the agent point of view. From the agent point of view, the biggest bang for the buck is commissions. Okay, I look at the final expense commissions as your upfront money. You make a lot up front and very little on the back end. With Medicare, you're looking at what you're trying to build is your pension, your retirement plan, your salary. You're looking at building at that day-to-day income that you'll have to have, regardless of whether you wake up the following year and decide whether you want to work or not. And so It is both sources of income are good. But it is, I will tell you, I have an agent right now that is writing 80 policies a month. And here's the beauty.
80 final
First thing
expense
he did,
policies or Medicare?
no, Medicare.
Wow.
The number one agent in the country right now for Humana. I mean, he is killing it. And the transition from final expense to Medicare from him was, according to him, simple. So much easier now because he's not having to try to get inside the door and try to convince a senior to have a conversation about final expense. What's happening is they're welcoming him in. They're telling him, come on in. I need help with my health insurance. And I guess to answer the question, what is it hand in glove? Yes, these seniors need help with both products. They need help with their final expense products, and they definitely need help with their health insurance, with their Medicare products. And it's not that hard of a transition.
One thing I'll add here, by the way, if you have a question, you're on the conference line, 5-star, raises your hand. You're welcome to ask a question. Anything about Medicare Advantage is fine. Medicare supplements, too, or just regular Medicare. Anything Medicare is fine. But I wanted to add this in because I think I have the understanding now in my business to where I'm at about the power of having a passive income. It's something I'm going to talk more about in my content in 2020. I'm putting together the videos to release right now for 2020. And I think the biggest thing that is really important is that agents need to realize that, I always will be a final expense advocate, but there is something to be said about developing some sort of passive income. Some stream of income that comes in that doesn't necessarily need you every time to go out and actively get it. I've had the benefit of developing an income through recruiting and building an agency that is, for the most part, passive. It's not passive. It's semi-passive, I would say. But agents who don't want to recruit can definitely get that with applying themselves to a Medicare type of focus. And the nice thing is, and I'm sure you can chime in and give us some perspective, you're going to find Medicare Advantage clients like the vast majority of the time that you're working final expense leads. And if you just start implementing some of the techniques we teach, you could build 500 cases of Medicare Advantage clients in a matter of a couple of years. Do you think that's something that's reasonable as far as an agent that's going out there working full-time final expense, and he could just come across this stuff in the process?
I'm going to tell you, David, about a month or two ago, I would have completely agreed with your comment. And I think where you're headed with a comment is great. The only thing is we have to change our timetable. When you take a final expense guy and compare the amount of work that they do to acquire a book of business compared to a final expense guy, they don't compare. Final expense agents are working so much harder. They're knocking on doors, as Brandon Clay puts out a lot, porch hopping, door knocking type of agents. We don't see that in the Medicare Advantage world. And so the point I'm trying to make with that is a final expense agent to build a book of 500 customers. You just mentioned it may take a couple of years. I think a good final expense agent can do that in a year. Easy. I don't, I used to, my thought process, well, it's going to take you 2 or 3 years, and I'm having to readjust that. I am now with the work ethic, with the amount of leads that are being purchased, with books of business that they already have,
right.
Getting to that 500 mark is I'm going to say, we just got to adjust our timeline. I'm thinking 1 year, maybe 2.
I'm trying to be purposely conservative here now, Luis. And obviously, I think I know who you're talking about that's writing this kind of volume. And it's being done. But, yeah, I mean, we're talking, in my estimation, 2 policies a week is kind of what that number comes down to. 100 policies, 125 a year. That's not that hard. That's if you're working a small amount of leads to begin. If you're doing more, but as a base level, you should, if you just ask and you try a little bit, should see something like that. But yeah, obviously More than that, yeah, if you actually apply yourself, 100% agree.
And let's just go with an average agent. Let's say that they do 2 a week, which is about 100 a year. Well, it's going to take 5 years to get to that 500 mark.
Right.
Now, the 500 mark is just a little imaginary baseline or goal that I use for agents. And when I do my seminars, I always start off with my slideshow that talks about the title of the slideshow is called "Show Me the Money." And since we're talking about, what's agent compensation and the type in getting to a certain number, opening the eyes of these agents, when they write 500 customers, when they have 500 into their book, they are bringing in $120,000 a year, $10,000 a month and change a month without having to work the following year. In other words, they don't have to wake up and redo all that business. It's going to come back to them, of course, minus attrition and the normal things that happen throughout life. But that's wake up the next year, and that's the kind of money you're going to have. So the renewal stream that you can get from having a book of business of 500. Where else can you do that? Where you're going to generate a pension of $10,000 a month.
And the thing that's powerful about this, and again, this is coming from somebody, I don't sell Medicare Advantage on a production basis. My passive income in the insurance business has been derived completely through agent recruitment and training. But I can speak on the passive income benefits. And the nice thing, and this is the thing that really is meaningful, to me, a dollar earned passively is worth more than a multiple of that worked or gained actively. Because what you get with a passive income source is a sense of freedom. You're not tied to working all the time. Not that working all the time is bad. You have to lay the foundation. And I think that's important to understand over the first couple of years as an insurance agent. But what's nice is once the foundation's laid and you do the basic follow-up service to your clients, which isn't that big of a deal, and you can speak more on that in a minute to kind of clarify that point. You've freed yourself from the grind. You can now make an income, in this case $10,000 a month, just by keeping people happy on the occasional phone call. And that frees up your life if you can control your expenses and live under that number that you make a month. You can live free without having to go out to see people. And that's powerful. That's extremely powerful. And there's not a lot of places, careers or industries that can provide anything like that. And this is like legit. There are so many prospects that you can help every day that you're seeing people in the field selling final expense that will allow you to work towards this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I completely agree. I mean, and I had another couple of agents ask me, well, what's it going to take for me to get started? What's my investment? What you go buy a franchise and you got to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, in this business, what do you invest besides a little bit of time and some education? Probably a couple of $100. And now, do you have to buy specific leads and restart a whole new campaign? No. Work the same campaign that you're doing right now. Your final expense agent is already dealing with seniors.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of doing that compliant transition to Medicare.
Stuff that we all teach. So, it's all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We understand the process as far as compliance goes to make sure that the interaction with your client is on the up and up. And works out just fine. Can you?
And we show you how to do that.
Right. Can you speak on the service issue? Because that's a question you get a lot. Is okay. Well, if I write all this business for Medicare, am I going to have people calling me all the time, asking me about billing or prescription changes and issues like that? What's it like in the real world when you have clientele?
God. Okay, so I'm going to do a comparison between my book of business and my P&C. So both books right now generate about the same kind of gross revenue. But for my P&C agency, I need almost 9 people to manage it. On my Medicare book of business, it's still just me.
Wow.
That's just a little comparison. Now, as far as what is the actual service like? Okay, this is how I handle it, and that's because I'm always running 100 miles an hour. First of all, there's not much service work that you can do. Not because I don't want to do it, but because of what's allowed. So usually the majority of your work is going to be at enrollment time. After enrollment time, these carriers don't want you in the picture. In fact, even if you want to be involved, if you want to help them with claims questions, prescription coverage questions, generalities you can help, but when it gets into the specifics and you get on the phone with the carrier, they don't want you on the phone. In fact, you've got to have a form signed, a HIPAA release form that allows you to be on the phone. Well, geez, that's not, I don't want to be involved with that. So I tell people, guys, service work, very, very little service work. Again, why? Because there's not much that you can do without that HIPAA release form. And that's just one thing for me that I don't want to get involved in. Now, I still get the calls, but I'll tell them, if you're calling me, David, and you're asking me a question about, why this doctor's covered or not covered, I can do network searches. That's not a problem. I can do formulary searches. I can check the list and tell me, well, it's because this med's in the network, in the list or not. But as far as specifics, I just tell them, David, look at the back of your card. There is a 1-800 member service number. That's the number you got to call. They've got people trained, and they can actually look up the claim forms and can do this for you. And I'll tell you what, David, I can get on the phone in 3-way, but guess what? They're going to make me hang up. You're welcome to come to my office, but as soon as the introductions are done, they're going to ask me to step out the office because they're going to want to talk to you in private. So, David, I think the best thing you can do is call that number in the back of the card and let the professionals at that carrier help you. And that's usually how I handle the service work issue.
It's interesting that you brought that up with your P&C agency, because P&C is a renewal-based product as well, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. But notice,
all renewal.
Yeah, notice the difference in the labor required to service that business, because you have people who file claims and there's a lot of follow-up work in that, compared to the health insurance, where you literally are handling it as the agent, not just the servicing agent, but also the one who sold it. It's incredible. And the point is a lot of, I think one of the biggest benefits that this particular sales system can provide is a lifestyle business. That's kind of the fad now that people talk about, is like, a business that allows you to do more than just work all the time. You literally are making the same income by yourself in Medicare Advantage as you are with 9 people staffed it. And you've got to worry about all the staffing issues. You got to motivate them. You got to hire, you got to fire. None of that with Medicare Advantage. That's incredible.
And the one thing you didn't forget was you got to have a storefront. I have a building.
That's right.
So you don't even need that in the Medicare side.
Right.
And then there's one more thing, I want to get this, you mentioned it, billing. Oh God, I love Medicare billing. Most of the plans, well, first of all, you mentioned Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement.
Right.
In my arena, with my clientele, out of every 10 people, 9 go to Medicare Advantage.
Okay.
1 who has done the proper planning for their retirement is one of those seniors that's going to travel. Right. They're not just living off Social Security. They will go into a Medicare Supplement with a prescription drug plan. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10 goes to the Medicare Advantage. Now, billing, this is what's beautiful about this, is most plans have a $0 premium. If they enroll in HMOs, there's $0 premiums. There's even plans that will pay the insured to enroll in. We call them Part B buybacks. They can enroll in the plan, and they will actually increase their Social Security check by enrolling in this plan. So, and it also can lead to a final expense agent trying to find money for a final expense plan. The Part B buybacks are great.
Yep.
You just found some money to help you with your final expense. Now, there are some PPOs in the Medicare Advantage arena that have a premium, and I worked on one yesterday. The premium is $15.
Right.
And it comes out of those Social Security check. You don't have to worry about billing.
Yeah. Let me interject and explain here, guys. Like, if you're selling final expense, even if you're doing, say, true Social Security deposit billing, that money for that final expense premium comes after the deposit hits. What Luis is talking about is like we get their money if they have a premium before they get their deposit. That means they can't go blow it and then you end up in a lapse. It's kind of cool. Wish ours was set up that way, final expense, but yeah, that's the best way to do it for sure, and the only way.
Exactly. And so billing, hardly have any issues. The only billing issues I've ever run into is when they don't pay their Part B premium,
Right.
but that's got nothing to do with us, what we do. That's more of a between them and Social Security and Medicare issue.
Right.
But yeah, service work, don't be afraid of it. And then I start telling the agents, look, they call you, this is a heck of an opportunity to have them come in.
Yeah.
Yes, you can't really do much on the service side, but guess what? It's another opportunity to get in front of them.
Right.
If you haven't sold that final expense, bring it out. The other thing is you've got other opportunities for other cross-sells. Right. Cancer plans, hospital indemnity plans, heart attack and stroke, dental, vision, and hearing. You've got other products that you can help these seniors with. And, what an opportunity. They're coming to you for help. Set them up with some people on the phone, get the problem solved, and hopefully they're happy. And then you've got an opportunity for a cross-up, make a little more money.
Tell us how, and a lot of agents wonder this who are looking from the outside in. They hear, I sell final expense, and all my clients say they get their Medicare stuff handled at the end of the year and what's called annual enrollment period. Can you explain, because here's the thing, with our arrangement, in some circumstances, we can sell Advantage plans year round. We can help people whether they're in annual enrollment or period or not. Can you explain how that works and how that's possible?
Yes. So a lot of effort, a lot of marketing money, a lot of attention is put into the AEP, which is the annual enrollment period. This starts October 15th and it ends December the 7th. For a lot of agents, this is where they make the majority of their money. For final expense agents, that is not going to be the case. And I'm going to tell you why here in a minute. But during the annual enrollment, this is the time period where everybody who's on a plan has the ability to switch plans if they want to. So it's a great time to get in front of clients. It's a great time to review their coverages, let them know what their changes are going to be, and see if there's something better out there. What I do with mine here is pretty much I don't do much. I just let them know, hey, if you're happy, you're still in the best plan that you should be in. Unless there's something wrong, I don't move them. But then it gives me the opportunity to also pick a lot of business up. Plans have a lock-in period. Outside of that AEP, there's not much that you can do for people unless they have a special election. Now, this is where I think this is going to be great for final expense agents. So we look at the period outside of AEP as lock-in. In other words, these seniors are locked into their plan. There are some exceptions to that, and we call those special election periods. So during it, you got to find an SEP, a special election, throughout the country, and this depends on your area, but there are still other ways that you can enroll seniors. Number one, and this is where I think final expense agents have a hand up on everybody else. Chronic plans. If an insured has a chronic condition, and you got to check your area to make sure you have a plan that is chronic, and if it is chronic, you got to know what your chronic conditions are. A lot of people think high blood pressure is or high cholesterol is a chronic condition. Well, it is, but in the eyes of Medicare and in the eyes of trying to find that election that gets you in, it's not. The two big ones in my area are diabetes. And how many final expense agents are out there that meet with diabetics? Yeah, exactly. That's the lead that you guys get. I'm like, you got a year-round a base there of people to enroll. So diabetics, huge. We also have cardiovascular disorders, heart failure. These type of chronic conditions allow you to have a special election which you can work all year long. So just like you said, how many of them are diabetics? Well, you know what? That's a huge percentage of your clientele. So that's one way to get in. The other way to get in, David, out of those final expense, how many of those people are high income? Would you say that are the leads that these final expense agents are buying?
High income? I mean,
high income,
10% or less. That's not very much.
So 90% are going to be low income.
Yeah.
With low income comes Medicaid, state Medicare, state medical assistance. If these guys are on Medicaid, that is another special election for you to enroll them all year long. So that's a big one. So number
they
one
don't have to be chronic.
is the chronic.
They don't have to have the chronic in that point,
No,
right?
no.
If they're okay, so they can be healthy but low income and still be potentially eligible for SEP, right?
That is correct. Okay. So you have the chronic is option one. The Medicare and the Medicaid is option two.
Okay.
Now the third option, and this one requires a little bit of investigative work, but because it requires a little bit of investigative work, a lot of seniors that qualify for this, and we're using a number of 3 out of 4 don't know about it. It's another huge opportunity for agents, and that is low income subsidy. And this is a program for seniors that make a little bit above the limit for Medicaid, so they don't qualify for that.
Right.
But they're still considered low income, and therefore they get assistance with their prescription drugs. And the way they get assistance is in the form of 2 ways. It removes the donut hole, which is huge. And number 2, it lowers their copays. And by doing that, by enrolling people, which is a 5-minute application on the Social Security side, if they're not already enrolled, it creates another special election or SEP, which allows you to enroll. But the thing is what I tell people, why does it require investigative work? Is because it's not a card or a label or something that they can have that they can show you. You've got to do a little bit of homework. And the way you do the homework is you just call the carrier that you work for. I love United Healthcare. I'll call the producer helpline and ask, I've got my insured David here with me. I need to find out if he's got LIS or Medicaid. Their next question is, when did they give you permission? Today. Then they're going to ask you for name, date of birth, Medicare number, their social, and then within 3 to 5 minutes, they're going to come back and they're going to give you that intel. And so you're going to find out if they got LIS, you're going to find out if they got Medicaid, and then once you get your answer, then you're able to proceed forward. So LIS is huge, and because it's a little elusive, a lot of seniors that qualify for it don't know about it. Right. And David, I'll tell you, seniors that take a lot of meds, they are deathly afraid of that donut hole or the coverage gap.
Right.
And what we see a lot in this business is when they get into that donut hole or that coverage gap, they quit taking their medications. Not because of they want to, it's just that they can't afford to pay those percentages anymore.
Right.
And guess what? You come in as the agent and you help them enroll, and if they get awarded that, you are a hero. You've done 2 things. Now they're getting the medication that they need to stay alive, to stay healthy. But also what you've done is you found some income so that you can get in there and close that final expense. Right. It's a win-win. I mean, it's just so you can. There's 3 ways to get in right now outside of AEP: chronic, the Medis, which is the Medicare and the Medicaids, and the little elusive LIS, which you have to do a little investigative work. But and the 4th one, the obvious one, turning 65.
Right.
So 4 ways to enroll people all year long. So this is a year-round business. It's not a seasonal, October to December business.
Right. Yeah, and I was going to ask you, is it realistic to stay that busy all the time throughout the year? I mean, is there that many people out there that would qualify for these special enrollment period events that you're talking about?
Yes. Oh yeah. I
How
mean,
many?
now for
What
the
do you
regular
think?
Medicare agent,
What do you think roughly would be it's hard to say, I know, but for the final expense agent who's buying direct mail and he's going out and running these leads, what percentage of his, if we know that 90% are low income, how many of those do you think would be, again, rough estimate, SEP eligible?
I'm gonna 75.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
they're either going to
incredible.
be medis. I mean, they're going to have a chronic condition. I mean, yeah, I'm going to say the majority of your 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10
That's crazy, man.
are going to be eligible with an SCP. And it's just because of the type of leads that they're already buying.
Right. Yep.
That's the market for final expense. And yeah, it's just one of those things that I'm finding for you FE guys. It's an easy transition. I mean, it's not that easy, but it is not one of those where, geez, I've got to completely turn my life upside down
Right.
and do something. You know, you're in the same industry, you're visiting with the same clientele. You know, it's not that much different from what they're already doing.
5-star if you
And
want to
in
ask a
fact,
question to Luis or myself. And go ahead. I interrupted you, Luis. There's just a slight delay. I'm sorry.
no worries. But I just tell agents, it's not that hard. I mean, and I think one thing we can do is for those that are interested, you know, what do they have to do to get interested? I don't know if that was a question you were going to ask me.
Please.
But for those that are sitting and listening or watching and decide, you know what, I want to try this. I want to make a jump to this. I want this residual passive income. What do I got to do? Okay. Step number 1 is you got to get with David and request the contracting links. You got to do a little bit of homework on your side prior to that. The homework that I would suggest you do is find out what carriers are in your area. And you can do that by going to Medicare.gov, or you can get with me and I'll help you do it. I'll show you how to go get how to search the carriers in your area. Once we find out what carriers are in your area, then we need to get an email out to David. Hey, David, I'm in San Antonio. I need to get contracted with these carriers. Okay, don't put out I need contracts. Be specific on what you want. So I would request always the big nationals, the Aetnas, the Humanas, Blue Cross, United, the Cignas. We can get you the big ones, and then potentially down the road we can get you some regional ones if they are very powerful in your area. So we request the contracts. You get the links, we get you contracted. Once you're contracted, you have to take a Medicare 101 test, and that is the AHIP. This is the only financial investment that you've got to make in your business, and it's $175. If you do it through the carriers, they give you a $50 discount, so you pay $125. And then on top of that, if after you make your 5 sales, we're going to reimburse that $125 back to you. So there's $125 initial investment, and then you're going to get that back. So almost a $0 investment to get started in this business. Now, after you've done the AHIP, then the results are transmitted electronically to every carrier. Once they acknowledge that they've received the results, then what they're going to say, step number 2, is they're going to want you to take their own carrier training. So United will have their courses, Aetna, and so forth. Every carrier is going to have a little set of courses that you've got to do on top of the AHIP. Once that is done, then you're going to be given the green light to sell. At that point, you're going to get 2 green lights. Number 1, you're going to get the green light to sell right away. So if you run into a senior that is aging in or whatever the scenario is, but they want to start October the 1st, you're going to have the capability of selling now. But then you're also going to be ready for 2020. Once that is done, so you've got AHIP, you got the certificate, the contracts, AHIP, carrier certifications, and then the last thing you need to do and we are encouraging agents to do this. I mean, this is, you've got to get this done, is in your area, this time of the year, we're having product rollouts. In other words, every carrier out there is having a sneak peek into their plans for 2020. They're hosting dinners, lunches. Here they're doing some casino nights and some dinner nights. They want agents to come out to learn about their plans for 2020. So we're encouraging agents, get out, go to these meetings, learn about the product in your area. But more importantly, is the guys that are talking up front are the account executives. Those are the guys that you got to sit down with and talk to. Those are the ones that are going to tell you what's hot in that market, because we're not going to know what's hot in Chicago. It's hard enough to know my area.
And the products differ between markets. Make that clear. It's not a ubiquitous, homogenous product across the board. It's going to vary based on the dynamics of that market, which is, again, enforces the reason you should go do these product trainings.
Right, and that's where you're going to get. You're going to find out what strengths they have. Also, here's what I like is I like to co-op. If I'm going to offer a product, I'm going to get with EAE from United and say, hey, what can you do for me? Yes, I'm going to try to sell and push your product, but why don't you help me with a mailer to my existing book? Why don't you help me with some freebies, card magnets, giveaways? Getting with these AEs is huge. Highly
account executives, right?
Yes, account executives, correct. These are the guys that work for the carriers.
Yeah, they're corporate people. They're not agents like we are.
That's correct. They're all corporate. And so they have a vested interest. If you go up with them, you go up to them and you have a business plan, tell them what you're doing. And if you're brand new, you don't have a track record, but if you got some kind of record and you're letting them know, hey, I've got a book of business, I've got 500 customers or 1,000, and here's what I want to do. Give them a game plan. They're going to work with you. I mean, it's in their best interest too. And,
so they'll put their money up to market to your book of business if that's what you got?
Oh, yeah. I've had these guys come to my office. They did a mailer, business reply cards, paid for the postage. And it's just a matter of asking. So it's available. And all that is going on right now. Again, AEP is a month and a half away. So most definitely for those of you that are sitting on the sidelines and you're debating, should I do it now? Should I do it later? No. Guys, make up your minds and get into the business now. This is a great time to get in.
So 2 points here. Number one, Luis, you mentioned the having to go look at what carriers are good for your market. Go ahead, for you guys that are looking at this and kind of want help with that, reach out to me directly. And then I'm either going to put together a basic training on how to do that on video so you can find out how to go through it step by step to find it on your own, or I'll personally help you, myself or Luis, but I'll make sure to put myself out there as kind of the first in line to help. And then second of all, I do have a question here on the call-in conference line. It's the last 4 digits is 8353. I'm going to unmute you now. If you want to go ahead and state your name and your question, please. 8353. You're on the air. (8353). Can you hear me? Uh-oh, you're muted still, buddy. Sorry, hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good, man. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm in Texas. I just recently attended a seminar that Lewis was talking about in Houston.
Oh, is that you, Bob?
It was fantastic. Hello?
Is that you, Bob?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, just saying hi. How you doing, man? Good to hear. I heard you went to the seminar too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Lewis worked with me one day out here, and I picked up a lot of information from him. He's really, really great. My question was, and it's something I didn't pick up in the training, is there a upside age limit to enrolling someone in Medicare Advantage like there is in Medicare Sup?
No, no, there is not an age limit. That is not a question that's asked on there. Of course, you do have to put the date of birth when you're filling out the app, but if you've got a special election, if you're working outside of AEP, regardless of their age, you can make it happen. If it's AEP, then it is game on. You enroll them in the best plan that's available for them. So no age limit.
All right, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome, Bob. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Bob, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to work with you. 5-star, if you got any more questions, guys, on the conference call. Any questions in the chat, feel free to. Mr. Bass is a YouTube chatter here. He had a question. I think you addressed it, but I'm just going to make sure if there's nothing else we could cover. I'll ask it to you right now, Luis. It's he asked, knowing the products, or let me rephrase this. His question starts off, what should a new agent selling Medicare focus on and not focus on? More specifically, he's asking, knowing the products, the difference between plans, and maybe he could give us advice on planning our career, not to get caught up so much information. Basically, you've been kind of answering this to an extent. The key question, I think, is how do you focus on getting and taking action? You know, we talked about how to get credentialing done, selecting the carriers, getting product knowledge. Can you kind of pick up on that and kind of tell agents, like, what's next, you know, after they got those bases done?
So once you've got the green light to sell and you're good to go, now it's a matter of bringing it up compliant to your customers. I'll tell you, at this conference that we had buttons that I mean, they literally flew off the box that were there. Asked me about Medicare. You're wearing a little button or magnet on your clothes is huge. You know, these people are going to want to talk to you about Medicare. So I think in your regular course of business as an FE agent, just having that pin is going to automatically raise questions about Medicare. Okay. Another way that you can do it is asking a senior, do you think you're paying too much for prescription drugs? I will bet $100 that every senior that you talk to is going to say, yes, I'm paying too much. Even if they're paying $1, they're going to think that they're paying too much. Helping them with LIS is of course another thing that you can do from. Remember, I put out 3 out of 4 that qualify for the LIS program are not enrolled. And not because they don't qualify, because they don't know about it. So I think normal course of business, continue doing the FE and doing what you're doing. You're going to uncover a lot of Medicare opportunities.
Yeah, and Sen here on the chat, just to kind of bolster this. I think you answered his question, but I think it's you find this stuff by just asking these. Yeah, do you think you're paying too much for prescriptions? Most people say yes, and then offer to do the LIS review. You know, it's another way to get to his question, which is when you're in the home, how do you determine what current plan they're on? Wouldn't you say that's accurate? You just start offering value, and then in exchange, they're going to give you this information, more or less, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, what I've seen agents tell me, the FE guys, when you go asking, go get your FE policy, go get your final expense, they usually will find some kind of resistance. With Medicare, there literally is no resistance. I mean, they'll give you their Medicare card and they'll start pulling out all these different cards, their Medicaid card, their carrier card, and usually they're afraid to throw cards away, so they've got old Medicare Advantage cards from different plans, and you're having to sort through them and like, no, these are all gone. So asking for what they have, you're not going to find. It's very rare you're going to get resistance on that one. The other way that you can find out, and David, we can do a video on this, and I would be glad to do it. Medicare.gov. It is such a huge resource. If you get a little bit of information from the insureds, their Medicare number, date of birth, their effective dates, and their zip code, you can plug in that data to Medicare.gov, and as you're processing through this or proceeding through the screens, you're going to get to a little window on the screen that's going to tell you exactly what plan they're enrolled in, and it's also going to tell you if they've got any kind of assistance. So it can eliminate a call to the producer helpline to find out if they got LIS. So that's something that if you want, David, sometime next week we can sit down.
I've already made a note for it, so yeah, I definitely do. that's it. That's a no-brainer to learn how to learn that stuff because it'll just help you sell that much more.
Oh, most definitely. And then agents tell me, okay, so when I get in there, I uncover the opportunity. How do I choose between? Here I've got 37 plans in Bexar County. How do I choose? Okay, well, we give you some tools for that. Number one is I've got a spreadsheet. Now, it's specific to my county, but I can send agents the spreadsheet. Just take out the data for this county and plug in the data for their county. I carry that in a little booklet, my checklist. I call it my Medicare Smart Book. And so it's hard to keep up with 37 plans. And so I will put this spreadsheet into some sheet protectors, and it'll allow me to do a quick glance of what they have. And I'm already, doing my calculations in my brain as to, okay, well, I think I'm going to offer this plan or that plan, just because I know that they have something that's a little bit stronger than what they're currently in. But the actual homework of what you need to do, there's only two things that need to be done. Okay, the first thing is when you're trying to evaluate and then make a recommendation for a plan, you've got to do two things. Number one is you've got to do a provider search. You have to make sure that their primary doctors and their specialists are in network. We'll show you how to do that. Super easy. You go to the carrier websites and you can knock that out there. The second thing that you do is you do a prescription search. You can also do that on the carrier sites, or you can do it on Medicare.gov, which is my preferred method. I only have to enter the drugs one time, and it will list all the carriers, and it will tell me what tiers they fall in, whether they're in the formulary or not, and it will even tell me based on the data that I put in when they're going to hit the donut hole if they hit it. So it gives me a lot of information on Medicare.gov. Once you've done those two things, doctor search, formulary search, which is the prescription list, you're pretty much done. At that point, you can use that data, make an evaluation, and then make a recommendation.
So, got another question here in the chat. This is from David Noble. Now, David may have missed earlier parts of that, but that's fine. We can go back over and clarify because this is a common question. So he's asking, can you get off to a good start in Medicare Advantage business with a strong lead list you can cold call, or is direct mail required? This probably just needs a basic explanation of compliance and lead generation. If you can explain that, and then maybe you can answer David in the way of saying what there are ways to generate free leads for Medicare Advantage or low-cost leads, if you kind of go that route.
Gotcha. Okay, so as far as cold calling or door knocking, you cannot do that for Medicare Advantage. Now, you can do it for Medicare supplements. And then in the course of the conversation, if it leads over to Medicare Advantage, then you have to get a form signed, which is a scope of appointment, and then you're rocking. But you cannot specifically cold call or door knock for Medicare Advantage. Okay. Now, as far as generating low-cost leads or no-cost leads, tons of options. One of my great resources, and I've got two. Okay, one of them is pharmacies. If you can partner up with a pharmacy, and not the national ones, get out there with the mom and pop ones. Find out what plans they're successful with, and become a resource for the pharmacist to send. Because they're the ones that get the questions. Well, why is this med not covered? Why my copays this? That's something that a pharmacist doesn't really want to discuss. They're dispensing medications. That's what they do. But if you now become a resource for a pharmacist, well, there's another free lead for you. So I would say, number one, go partner up with pharmacists. Number two, as far as low cost or no cost leads. Well, I've got three now. Now I'm thinking. Number two is work your book of business. For existing agents, if you have an EBR, and this is called an existing business relationship, you have an insured that is a premium paying customer right now. You can call them up and offer your services. It is game on. Okay, so there, work your book of business. The third one is working with people like me. If I put on my property and casualty hat, guys, we focus so much on our business. Very few do what I do. They're so involved in their business. they're understaffed. They don't have the ability to do what I do, which is the freedom to do Medicare. Partner up with a property and casualty agency. And where do you start? We'll start with your agent, your current property and casualty agent. If you have a 1-800 number, well, then too bad. But if you've got a State Farm guy, an All-State Farmers, or an independent guy, go talk to them and ask them, hey, what are you doing for your people that are turning 65? Are they going and trying to figure it out? Or would you like to have an in-house resource, somebody that you can send them over to and make it a value proposition for them? You're going to make some money. Maybe you work out some kind of deal with them financially, but I will tell you, in my world, if you can come back to me and tell me, hey, I helped your customer out, I was able to handle their health insurance, but by the way, he needs a life policy. So why don't you give him a call, Mr. Agent? Geez, you just put money in his pocket. Don't make it a one-way street, make it a two-way street, and feed that property and casualty agent some customers. Not only from his book, but also from your book.
Right.
Those are just thinking off the top of my head, 3 ways that you could generate low cost to no cost type of leads. Oh, and then plus what they're doing right now. They're already buying leads. Why don't they just work those existing leads?
Right. Absolutely. Well, Luis, let me. No. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can I do one more thing?
Please.
And this is kind of a plug for us and for some of these agents that are trying to make decisions. Do I go with David? Do I? There's all kind of entities out there. Trying to get your Medicare business and trying to get you to be agents for them. Well, first of all, every entity out there is going to pay full street commissions, which means in 2020, when you do a new enrollment, you're going to make $510. That's standard across the board. Okay. If you do a flip or a renewal, you're going to make $255. So you'll make half of that. Commission is not really something that should be on the table. What should be on the table is the support that you're going to get. One thing that we're doing that in being in this business this long, I have not seen out there, is the lifeline that you have, that you're going to have access to. So I've got a business partner because we do have a lot of agents, but we're taking ourselves out of the sales side of things where we're going to be 100% support. So for you guys that are wanting to start, you're going to have a lifeline. You're going to have the ability to phone a friend. Okay, if you're stuck, if you're trying to figure out how to do something, you're going to have access to us for help with that. So that alone, in addition to working with your AEs, you're going to have us to bounce ideas off. We're available on the GroupMe's. We're available by email, by text, and by a phone call. So we make ourselves 100% available to you. Now, the one thing that is taking off right now, where we're getting a lot of traction, is if we can get an agent to get completely certified, get the green light to sell, if they can acquire 10 signed scopes of appointment. Okay, in other words, these are appointments that they have set up. Bob mentioned that I went out to go right along with them. We are going to be doing that for agents, and we don't care where you live. Okay, either myself or Patrick will come out. We will work leads those appointments in your backyard, and you're going to be the agent of record. We're not going to be. You don't have to split commissions, which you can't do anyway. But it's 100% yours. We're just going to show you how to do it. But we want to have at least 10 scopes signed.
So you'll come out and field train these guys, and they make all the money.
I will. They make all the money. All they got to do is buy us a hamburger at Whataburger, and we're perfectly happy. That's what it's going to cost them. But literally, we will fly out.
It's worth it, I think.
Exactly. We will fly out. We'll make the arrangements. We'll spend a day or two with you, and literally, if you can fill the calendar up with appointments, we will just go from one to another. I mean, you've got us completely. Usually we're going to spend a night, so you can have us for the entirety on your appointments, and then that evening we can sit there and have dinner and just chit chat and problem solve or do some business planning, or you can just pick our brains.
Great.
I don't know of any other FMO that is going out there and making ourselves or making themselves available to do field training.
Right.
I mean, I think that's huge for us. We will do that. We're doing that right now. People are getting those scope signs and they're letting us know, and we're filling up our calendar. So I think that's huge. If we can get these agents to do that, we will come out and field train them.
And that's in the character of how I look at this business. And I think why I have so many people follow what I do is because I'm passionate about training, and I'm passionate about developing the agent to be successful and giving them the tools to do that. And I'm glad that you guys have made that commitment too, to the agents who can meet 10 scopes are easy. It's not that hard to get to do that.
No.
Because, development, firsthand experience, flying to you, making all the money. I mean, that's such a great opportunity. So to conclude, guys, bottom line here, the reason I'm going in this direction to some extent, I'm always going to be a final expense guy through and through. But the reason that we're talking Medicare Advantage is because, again, one of the big things in my career so far since 2011, since I got in, is just a realization of how important it is to develop passive income. I really think that adding Medicare Advantage to all of you guys who are already writing final expense, or maybe you sell something else, it's a great product with an enormous opportunity. There's such a big market for it, and the people we target really are not as well served as many of the other markets are, maybe the higher income seniors, and they need specialists to come in and help out. And I think with that kind of knowledge and a dedication over, and Luis says, even a year's time, possibly several years' time, you can develop a six-figure income that's passively based, where you don't have to go out and put your head to the grindstone. You can literally take the brakes off as much or as little as you'd want and get the freedom that a passive income can provide you. And Medicare does provide that. And I think it's wise for any agent with experience who's not doing this to seriously consider that. Because, again, you don't have to work nearly as often. And I can tell you, when I started doing recruiting and building my passive sources of income, it wasn't like that. I always figured I'd work 6 days a week. But now, 3 kids later and mid-30s, my values have changed. I don't work in the field nearly as much, and all of my income for the most part now is derived exclusively passively. So I have time now to do other things outside of work that I had put off that I can now dedicate. So I want you guys to share in that same benefit. It's not easy. It's difficult, just like anything worth having in life is. But if you have the commitment, it's wonderful, and you can really have, as an old agent Travis Tubbs said, a lifestyle second to none. So if you're interested, if you are compelled in any of this and you'd like to find out more, just go ahead and go to davidduford.com, click on the contact box, and in fact, I'll put that in the chat if you're watching it. And you can go ahead and just send me a message and say, I'm interested in possibly looking into the Medicare Advantage thing. You don't have to do your business with me on final expense. It's quite all right if you don't. Happy to talk to you anyway. I think that link should work now. Perfect. And we can talk more about what the options are in getting started. And again, if you're looking for those carriers, wondering what's available in your local area, just I'll be happy to go to work for you if I don't already have a training set up at the conclusion of this recording. So other than that, Luis, thank you for your time. And if the last words, you want to add anything else before we wrap it up?
No, thank you for having me. Like I said, agents, if you're on the sidelines, jump in. There's no better time to do this. And we've got a support structure to help you, and we've got a training program. We're going to hold your hand as much as you need, and it's just one of these times it's a no-brainer, I think. Right. If you're on the call, you're listening, you've got the feelers out there if you want to do it. I welcome you. I'd love the opportunity to work with you guys. So please take advantage of it.
All right, Luis. Hey, thanks for taking time out of your day to do this. And to all you watching and listening, thank you for your time. I appreciate you spending time out of your valuable day hearing what we have to offer and hopefully giving you some ideas on how this business works. So hopefully we'll hear from you soon. And you guys have a good rest of your Labor Day. Thanks again.
Okay, we'll do. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah. Bye, Luis. Thank you.
Bye.